What if thousands of people who have never met from different countries, backgrounds, and beliefs are telling the same story? The same lights, the same beings, the same missing time. At one point, do we stop calling it a coincidence and start asking what's really happening? Tonight, we're not only talking about these theories, we're talking about patterns. Welcome to the Deep Woods Paranormal podcast, where we explore real encounters, real evidence, and mysteries that refuse to be explained. I'm your host, Matt Harvey, and tonight we're stepping into one of the most controversial and fascinating areas of the paranormal, alien abductions. Joining us tonight is Simon Brown, author of Aspects of Alien Abductions, Shocking UFO Encounters Volume 1, a book that takes a very different approach to this phenomenon. Instead of focusing on sensational stories or wild claims, Simon dives deep into the patterns, the consistencies reported by experiencers across the world. With over 900 podcast episodes under his belt, through Alien UFO Podcast and Our Paranormal Afterlife, Simon has spent years speaking directly with those who claim to have had these encounters. He's also a certified clinical hypnotherapist and past life regression therapist. That gives him a unique perspective into memory, consciousness, and what people are actually experiencing during these events. So tonight we're going beyond the surface. We're going to talk about what people really are reporting, what patterns keep showing up, and what it might mean if these experiencers are more connected than we think. So before we jump in, I want to ask you guys something. Do you believe that alien abductions are real? Or is this just something else happening behind these experiences? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because tonight's conversation might challenge what you guys think and know. Alright, so without further ado, welcome Simon Brown to the show. I appreciate you coming on with us and sharing your stories and telling us a little bit about your book. So without, like I said, further ado, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm in south of England on the Dorset coast, and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I specialise in past life regression. I also have two podcasts. One's the Alien UFO podcast. One is the Our Paranormal Afterlife podcast.
Nice.
And also, I've written these books, so it's a thing where I've produced 900 episodes of the podcasts. I've been doing past life regressions for years, taken many, many people through it. And got right here, this is my first book about near-death experiences. This is about when people have a near-death experience and they have an out-of-body experience and they see something, and then after they've recovered, they talk about it and people say, you couldn't have seen that, you were dead. So right. It's a verification. So there's 30 of those cases, and my next book, I'm shamelessly plugging stuff here.
It's fine, it's good. I'm glad you are.
Alien Abduction, and that's volume 1. Volume 2 is going to be out next year, forward by Mike Cleland. That's fascinating. So, and all the information in the books comes from the podcasts and the people I've talked to. So everything in them is I've talked to the people myself. I've quizzed them myself and found out about their experiences. And, over the years, I've had my own experiences, the psychic flashes and UFOs and very vivid, powerful dreams. So, yes, all sorts of things over time come through to me.
That's awesome. And you've been doing this a long time. If you've done 900 podcasts, I mean, we're closing in on 300, and we've been doing this almost 3 years. So you've been doing this for like 10 plus years.
Well, no, it's since 2018.
Wow.
So it's about 8 years.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what got you into the UFO research? You said you had your experiences of your own. Were your own research, was your own experiences what got you into the research?
It wasn't. It's something where I've always been interested. I remember being 10 years old, going to the local public library and getting books on UFOs and Bigfoot and ghosts and just anything supernatural. And then over time, my interests kind of changed. So it was really, with the afterlife stuff, it's evidence that we continue after death. So it's not religious, it's not super spiritual. It's like my book, I'm looking for evidence. And then a little while later, I started the UFO podcast, but I've always been interested in that, particularly the alien abduction side of it. And I wonder if I've had experiences like the alien abduction thing. That's why I'm so fascinated by it. Because being a hypnotherapist, I take people through regressions. And so I've been taken through regression as well, a lot. It's something, when I was at college, a hypnotherapist, we practice on each other.
Right.
I did have these experiences show up under hypnosis. So I've seen UFOs close up, which is a conscious memory, but my only memories of alien interaction are through hypnosis. So even me as a hypnotherapist, I'm thinking, can I really trust this? Did this really happen?
Right. You're like, is this real?
Yeah, but it's decades of reading books on it, whether it's Whitley Strieber and Bud Hopkins and about Betty Andreasson, and books perhaps about Barney and Betty Hill, just over and over, getting any information I can.
Yeah.
So when it came to doing the podcast, I felt like I was a bit of an expert in this before I started.
That's awesome. So what was the first, experience you think you had with it? You said you went back through, being put, under, and basically, having somebody, a colleague, basically go through and hypnotize you. What was that like?
Well, we were doing a past life regression, so this was not about UFOs.
Okay.
And so I saw a past life. It looked like it was Venice in the 16th century. And we went through that whole past life and what happened. And I saw the death of that past life. And then it got to a point where I felt like I was just a ball of light looking down on the dead body.
Wow.
And the hypnotherapist was saying, okay, now just drift away from that life, leave that all behind. Just drift away and tell me the first thing that comes to you. And it was like somebody flipped a switch. Now it's 0 to maximum of being terrified. And the hypnotherapist told me afterwards she could see my muscles quivering. I was so scared lying on this bed in her office. And then what I was seeing through hypnosis was I was on a metal table and I was naked, and there were 3 greys there. I was like 2 on one side, 1 on another side.
Oh, wow.
And they had this equipment and they were doing stuff to me. And so they did that, and then they got me off the table and they were walking me across the room. And suddenly I had this vision in my mind that something that couldn't happen in real life, but it's as though the aliens were showing me something. And that was that I was in this big forest area, and an area about the size of a football field had been chopped down, so it was all just stumps. And I was there with so many adults, and there was a planet in the sky that was very, very close to us, far closer than the moon. I mean, in reality, it's impossible because the gravitational fields of the 2 planets would interact.
Yeah.
But there was a pathway coming down from the other planet, and all these children dressed in white were coming down this pathway, and the adults were greeting them, and they're hugging, and there's big smiles. And I got a message in my head that said, when the planets meet, the children will return. And next thing I knew, I'm back in that room with the Greys, and they took me over to the wall, and a hole opened up in the wall that was like cookie cutter shape of me.
Wow.
And I went through the hole, and it wasn't a room or a hallway on the other side. It was just an enormous kind of energetic space full of colours, and I was going through it at 100 miles an hour. And around me, I could sense there were other people, other humans, And I came into this long, thin room. It was almost like a train carriage, but it was totally white, and it had these white benches which were molded in with the walls. And there were clothes everywhere. And I got this telepathic message that kind of said, nobody goes home until they got their clothes on. And there were other humans in there. Everybody's getting their clothes together and getting dressed. And then I went to the end of that room, and there was a hole in the floor. And I stepped through that hole, and next thing I was in my flat in London. It was 2 a.m. I just went to bed, and I got up the next morning, went to work, like nothing happened, no memories of it. So,
Wow.
you know, what am I to make of that? The
Exactly.
fear was so real.
Right. Was it a dream? Or was I just, this is something, I ate? Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I've heard a lot of alien abduction stories, not nearly as many as you have, but a lot of people say the same thing. They have the same stories where they just have this, man, that's all weird. They have these memories of something, but they can't verify if it was real or not. And then later on, they find implants, or they have another experience, and they're starting to scratch their head, going, "Okay, maybe there's something to this." And they go through, therapy and get hypnotized, and have these, basically regressions where they start to remember things, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it really did happen." And kind of like your experience. And Laura, one of our people that comes on, guest that comes on quite a bit, she's basically just telling me story after story, and it's all very similar to what I keep hearing from everybody. So anyways, continuing on. So tell us a little bit more about what you do. You meet with clients, and you help them go through and try and figure out what happened to them, or how do you help them?
Yeah, it depends what we're doing, because I offer two types of session. One is just to explore, just to see what comes up, and the other one's therapy. And it's just a thing of hypnotizing the person, getting them to the point where there's a kind of, I don't know if you call it a barrier. It's like I describe everything for them in the hypnosis, the induction. And I get to the point, and it may be a door. And I say, on the other side of this door is one of your past lives. So I say, now step through into that past life. And then I stop describing anything. And I don't tell them which past life or what time period or anything. I just say, okay, now where are you? And I lead them through the past life, or guide them using very basic questions, because I can't suggest anything or lead them. So it's very things like, okay, what happened next?
Right.
Is there anyone with you or not? Yeah. And so much stuff comes up that's so unexpected and unpredictable. And you see a life that makes perfect sense in how it relates to your current life. And that's where you can get really therapeutic stuff happening. I had a guy who had terrible stomach pains, and throughout this life, and doctors couldn't find anything wrong. It had always been there. And we saw a past life where he was stabbed in the stomach and killed.
Jeez.
And then we jumped to another past life where he'd done something and he felt so guilty. And he said it was like a ball, a knot in his stomach. I've got techniques to release negative energy, or to break bonds with the past life. So I do those. And it might take 3 or 4 sessions, but I did one session with that guy, and he emailed me later, like weeks later, and said, the pain's almost gone. Dang. It was terrible for most of his life. He said he sits in front of the TV poking himself in the belly because he can't believe the pain's so reduced.
That's awesome. Well, awesome. That's great that you can help people like that. Do you have any cool alien stories you want to share with us? Basically, I know you have to probably protect people's privacy, but can you actually tell any of the stories that you've heard through hypnosis?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have taken people to past lives on other planets. I had a woman who I said, okay, where are you? And she says, I'm in a desert. And I said, can you look down and see what you're wearing? And she just didn't answer. And I said, what's coming to you now? She says, I don't think I'm human. I've got too many knees. And then we couldn't go any further than that. But there was another guy who was on a planet that was just water, and he was like a dolphin kind of creature, and there was a civilization there. And that one was all about, they were all psychic and they could all communicate with telepathy. And that's what that life was based on. But as far as people who had abduction experience in this life, I've only done 2 or 3 of those. And I remember I had one guy, he was crying his eyes out. And I said to him, we don't have to do this. We could move away. And he was like, no, I have to find out what happened. And I remember his face was bent down. There's the tears, and I could see the snot coming out of his nose. And he just kept going with it. And that was quite a scary situation.
I bet. You get somebody to go back into those memories. Yeah, I mean, we've had people where they, when we're in paranormal investigations and we're trying to deal with the ghosts and stuff like that, and sometimes you have to deal with something that, it's somebody they didn't even know that passed, and maybe they knew them back in high school or whatever, and maybe they teased them or something like that, and they're hanging on to that memory. They don't even realize they're hanging on to that memory, and then they're dragging this person with them, and they don't even know they've passed, and then so they have to let go of that for that person to move on, and that memory and that pain that sticks with them, basically handcuffs them to the person that's live, and so they have to let go of that to heal and basically let that person go. We had a military personnel that went to battle. I can't tell much about his story, but he was a private client, and he was being haunted by this guy that he killed, and he did some things that he shouldn't have after the guy was dead, but he and his buddies were super black ops, special ops guys, and they had gone into an area just to basically do some recon, and got ambushed by quite a few. I think he said 40 or 50 guys. Then 8 guys took out 40 or 50 guys, and one of the guys that they were fighting killed one of his buddies, and so they reacted in a very negative way and did a lot of things they shouldn't have done, and he was of a different religion, and so they basically made sure that he couldn't pass on, and did some horrible things to him. And so we had to go through and basically tell him, I forgive you and stuff like that. We had to go through the whole process of kind of healing him, and before this other guy can move on. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. All right, so tell us more about your UFO stuff and your alien abduction stuff. Tell us more about research.
Yeah, the thing about the book is each chapter is a different aspect. So there's one about childhood experiences, there's a chapter about screen memories, one about missing time, one about what happens on board the craft, then episodes where people have been healed by the ETs, or my lab, military abduction experiences. What you see over time, and you would have seen this as well, is that there seems to be a program that the aliens are running that's very well organized, and it's consistent, and it starts when you're a child and it can go right through to late adulthood, and it's not just an isolated event, or somebody's driving down the road and the UFO's flying over and think, oh, look, there's some humans, let's grab them. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I wonder about is, if it begins in your childhood, how do they know that you're suitable without meeting you first?
Right.
'Cause I've got a number of people who are children with all these, like 4 or 5 years old. How did the aliens know to pick them up and not another bunch of 4 or 5 years old? It seems to be some kind of spiritual thing. And that's something I'm coming across where it's to do with consciousness. Because, with screen memories, they can project into your mind whatever they want you to see. So when you won't see an alien standing in front of you, you'll see an owl, which is a classic image.
Huh.
And some people talk about how their experience is out of body. So it's like their consciousness is abducted and their body stays in the bed or stays wherever it is.
Interesting.
So I wonder if the ETs, that's how they know which children to pick, is because it's something to do with consciousness and spiritual side. I've had 2 guests on the podcast. They're in the book, and they both basically got to a point where they came to a large table with all these greys sitting opposite them, almost like it's a courtroom or a job interview.
Oh, jeez.
And they, both of these people said to them, "You didn't tell me it was going to be this hard to be a human. When I agreed to be incarnated in this body, you didn't tell me how bad it was going to be."
Oh, wow.
And with one of them, the alien said to them, "Tough luck. Just stop whinging and get on with it." But with the woman, they were saying, "Yeah, we're sorry about that. We didn't realize either that it was going to be this hard." So when these things start showing up, it makes me think that there's a connection there, say, between the afterlife and the aliens. There's a book coming out soon by a great near-death experience researcher, which shows the connection between near-death experiences and UFOs and these crossovers that happen there. So my book is looking at it'll be the missing time chapter. I'll talk about missing time. Then there'll be a number of transcripts from my episodes of people describing their experience, and then I do an analysis of each one. So we're seeing what's going on with missing time, say why they're doing it, and that kind of thing. And there's one on sightings, which I think is quite interesting. One thing I've always thought about: if somebody sees a UFO, why are they seeing it? I imagine that their technology is so advanced, they don't need to fly around with really bright lights on them, drawing attention to themselves. They don't need to do crazy maneuvers. It's like, okay, everybody look at us, here we are. And I think with one of my UFO sightings, I was by myself. And I wonder if it was there for me. And I wonder if that's why some people see them. I was driving down the motorway, 1 o'clock in the morning, and there was this really bright light off to the side, and I know that stretch of motorway, and I know these are all open fields. This isn't town. I thought, that's weird, 1 o'clock in the morning. What are they doing there? I thought it might be emergency works on electricity lines or something.
Yeah.
There were some trees there, but I slowed right down. There were no other cars on the motorway, no lighting on this part of the motorway. And I got to the point where I could see what was making the light, and it was this craft about the size of a large house. It was shaped like a rugby ball, 25 feet off the ground, 200 feet from me, loads and loads of red lights on the underside of it, and a really powerful spotlight beam coming out of it towards the ground. And it didn't move an inch the whole time. I was so close to it, it didn't make any noise. I went through the mental checklist thinking, well, it's not a helicopter, there's no noise, it can't be an aeroplane, it's not a hot air balloon. And then I just continued driving and increased my speed and went home, which seemed weird to me as somebody who's having such an interest in UFOs. Or maybe I should have stopped and got out of the car. But it was in a later hypnotherapy session that the therapist took me back to that sighting to see if anything else happened, and all this other stuff showed up. So, it's that thing, do I trust that memory or not?
Yeah, exactly.
I've taken people through past life regression who have found the past life. They found that person, and they've emailed me. One of them sent me a painting, a portrait of the previous life. And I've had things where I've seen in past life regression, and then later they're verified. So if these things can be verified through past life regression, that adds some weight to verifying the UFO memories. That stuff does come through hypnosis, which is real, did actually happen.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I've had a few sightings myself, especially here in Texas. I mean, we've been driving back from Houston towards College Station, and both Amanda and I saw a weird. I don't know if it was maybe it was a drone or what, but there was weird lights dancing up in the sky above College Station, Bryan. And then I used to be a driver, and I drove, all around Texas at night, and I've seen some crazy things, some lights. We've recorded quite a few things too, and here in Texas, and then also back when I used to live in California. That one night I recorded that video that somebody didn't like because they took down my YouTube and my Facebook page all at the same time, and then basically destroyed my laptop right after I plugged my external hard drive in with all the evidence on it from 30 years, but melted that down too. But yeah, I mean, strange things. I don't know. I recorded this thing for over an hour, just sitting, basically over Orange County, and lights flashing and things like coming in and out of it and changing shape and colors and size. And so, yeah, but I don't think I've had any real UFO encounters. I did have a weird dream where I thought, when we lived here in Texas, where I basically was coming out of the bathroom or something, and I had a personal protection item in my hand, and there was flashing lights. And this is after I kept seeing strange things in the sky, and there was something walking around. Look, you could see the grays through the window, and of course we have blackout curtains, but you could see the silhouettes of something walking around out there. And I tried to pull a personal protection weapon up. My wife was sleeping, and I tried to yell at her. I couldn't talk or anything, and I could barely move the protection item up. And then it just and then everything just stopped. So I was back in bed. So I don't know what ended up happening with that, but one of these days we might have to talk and just see what exactly happened. But yeah, I don't think I was abducted or anything, but you never know. Just strange. I could have just been dreaming. Who knows? But
was there a feeling to it? Was there any kind of emotion there, or is it just kind of neutral?
It was more like fear. I knew what was going on, and I was like, okay, I tried to pull the weapon up to scare them away, and I think I did. I don't think they really wanted anything to do with me at that point. I think I'd gone into the closet and grabbed my personal protection item, and they knew I had it, and they're like, nope, they were just walking around outside. What was funny is we have 3 dogs, and none of the dogs reacted to it. Nothing happened. Nobody reacted to it, so just me. Maybe because I was awake. I mean, maybe they mess with you when you're sleeping. I don't know, but it was interesting.
Yeah, it's that thing where they seem to be able to control people so well and so easily.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. I felt like I was being basically just immobilized. It felt like my body I couldn't move my body. I felt like I was just completely paralyzed. And I could barely move my hand. I was trying to move my arm up to point the thing at them, and in case they did come through the wall or come through but they never came in that I know of. But you could see the silhouettes going back and forth through the window. We have a sliding glass door in our bedroom, so you could see them, on the outside because of the light shining in. You could see the silhouettes of them moving around. They weren't very tall, maybe 3 or 4 feet is all. But I could see them walking around out there, and you could see the light, and there was white light, and then other lights like flashing blue and red and colors and maybe purple. But yeah, it was strange.
So would you consider hypnosis to see if there's anything to it?
maybe sometime after we're done with the podcast. That'd be interesting to see. I think I was just dreaming because I woke up. I'm like, what the heck? Vivid dream. But yeah, just strange.
That's the thing about they're able to paralyze people and have total control over them. But do you blame them? these crazy violent humans. You wouldn't want to let them just run around.
Yeah, I think they're able to manipulate your brainwaves somehow. If they can basically talk through, basically do telekinesis, where they can talk through, telepathically to you, who's to say they can't manipulate your brainwaves?
Yeah, in all sorts of ways. That's like screen memories, seeing these things.
I've met a lot of military personnel that have told me stories, and one guy was telling me he was in a special project somewhere, and he can't tell me where, but he met what were they? I forget what he called them, but it's the ones that look like praying mantises. And he said they have a veil over their face because they are so scary. But he said that they're actually pretty damn funny. They talk to you telepathically, and they would be sitting at a table eating, and you'd have the Marines or whoever on one side, and you have them on the other, and they'd be talking, and they'd talk back and forth, and they'd just be cracking jokes. And he said that you couldn't finish your meal because they make you laugh so hard. And so they had a set time for meal. I think they had like a half an hour to eat or something like that. And that area was very controlled. But he said there's like 17 different types of aliens. And like I said, I've had a lot of interesting conversations with people over the years. Yeah. Anyways, so we're starting to run out of time here. So is there anything else you want to tell us about your book or either book that you have out? And
yeah, it's a thing where I do the podcast where I'm looking for evidence of afterlife. I find so much of it, and it's not just near-death experiences, it's reincarnation and, children who remember past lives, and they bring up such detailed memories that are confirmed. And then there's deathbed visions. When people are dying, they see relatives visiting them. And then there's terminal lucidity, which is very interesting. Shared death experiences, mediumship. People don't know that there are programs where mediums are tested really rigorously to see if they're really bringing stuff through. And it's been shown that they can do that. And there's this remote viewing. And so all these different kind of things, the ESP and consciousness, it seems there's very little doubt that there is an afterlife, especially after I've done this many episodes. So I'm quite proud of both those podcasts and both of these books. And it's just a thing of feeling this stuff's amazing. Well, let's tell people about this. Let's get this information out there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I've had several near-death experiences. The last one I did experience family members. I can't remember most of it, but I can vividly see being in a white area with my mom and other family members, and I don't remember what happened, but I had a 45-minute conversation with my mom, I'm pretty sure, but it seemed like mere seconds, and then I was, back in my body. So, yeah, very interesting, and definitely, you guys got to go check out his books. We'll link this below. We'll link both books below, so you guys can go get his book. Where's your book at? Is it at Amazon, or where is it at?
Yeah, the book on near-death experiences is Amazon, and it's on paperback, audiobook, and Kindle. And the Alien UFO podcast, the Alien Abductions book, will be out on May 25th.
Awesome.
And it's the same with that.
It'll be on Amazon. Cool.
Yeah.
You'll have to send me a link to both of your podcasts as well, and we'll put those down below so people can listen to that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Well, Simon, thank you so much for coming on with us today. I really appreciate it. And guys, make sure you go check out his books and check out his podcasts. I definitely will. I think that's very interesting because I'm always constantly learning and stuff like that. So, again, Simon, thank you so much. And we appreciate you. And we will catch you guys on the next one.